Yep, just as I thought, this thing is handling 1440p AAA gaming like a champ. I mean, I'm really impressed by the performance so far. Hey, what's going on everybody? It's ETAPRIME back here again. Today we're going to be taking a look at a really powerful mini gaming PC that I recently picked up on AliExpress. If you're into these mini gaming PCs, you've probably seen a couple that are very similar to this design here, but this is the brand new 2024 model and it's packing a lot more power than the previous generations that we've seen, because this specific model is actually using a Ryzen 9 7940HS APU paired up with an RTX 4060. In the past, we've taken a look at a very similar PC, but it was powered by an Intel chip and an RTX 3060, I believe was the highest. We also took a look at the 3050 version, but this is going to come in much more powerful given that we have a Zen 4 CPU paired up with an RTX 40 series GPU. I've personally always thought that the overall design of these things was pretty neat. It looks like a little blade, definitely a small form factor unit, and it does come with a stand. But before we get into everything else, I do want to mention that this video is brought to you by Urcdkeys. I've actually been using this site for a couple years now. They do offer Steam keys, Origin, Uplay. They even offer Microsoft applications like Office, but the main reason that I use Urcdkeys is for their Windows keys. Right now, their Windows 10 Pro OEM key is $19.84, but if you use code ETA at checkout, you can get 25% off. And another great thing about buying from here is they do accept PayPal. I just did this build here. I need to activate Windows. I'm going to head over to my updates and security. We're going to go to activation. As you can see, I've got Windows 10 Pro, but it's not activated. So I'm going to change product key. I'm going to paste it in here, choose next, choose activate, and Windows is now activated. We're ready to go. My warning is totally gone, and basically that's it. They'll email your code once your payment is processed, and that's basically it. If you're interested in picking up cheap Windows 10 keys for your new PC builds, I'll leave a link in the description. Inside of the box, along with the mini PC, I didn't receive much. We've actually got a stand, some hardware to mount said stand, and we've got a 240 watt power supply. Now usually they do send over some cabling because this will accept a 2.5-inch drive internally, but unfortunately wasn't inside of the packaging right now. Not sure if that's going to change down the road or not. Again, personally, I've always liked this overall design, and when it comes to I/O, there's not much up front here, but we do get two USB 2.0 ports. And moving around back, from the top to the bottom, we've got a microphone in, audio out, gigabit Ethernet, unfortunately it's not 2.5 on this unit, 4 USB 3.2 ports, 2 full-size HDMI 2.1 ports, and USB Type-C. From what I'm seeing so far, this is USB 3.2, but I could be wrong about it. I did try to connect an eGPU, but there may be some drivers that I'm missing or something like that. It could very well be USB 4, but right now I'm sticking with USB-C 3.2. It will support video out. You can pick these up fully configured, or you can pick them up bare bones. This one actually came with a 1TB NVMe SSD and 32 GB of DDR5 RAM. It's running at 4800 megatransfers per second, and usually I'd be a bit disappointed if we were using the iGPU. But along with this powerful Ryzen 7000 series APU, we've got a dedicated RTX 4060. Now it is a laptop variant, but from my testing, this will run it up to 150 watts. So it's a full power RTX 4060 laptop variant, and performance at 1440p is awesome with this little thing. Now when it comes to the overall specs, like I mentioned, we've got the AMD Ryzen 9 7940HS. These cores are based on Zen 4. We've got 8 cores, 16 threads, a base clock of 4 GHz, and a max boost up to 5.2. We also have access to the Radeon 780M iGPU. But with this, we get an NVIDIA GeForce RTX 4060 laptop variant with 8 GB of GDDR6 VRAM. This will support up to 64 GB of DDR5 in dual channel running at 4800 megatransfers per second. It supports 2 M.2 NVMEs, one 2.5-inch SSD, but unfortunately I didn't get the hardware to mount it or plug it in. There is a spot on the board for it. It did come with Wi-Fi 6 and Bluetooth 5.1, and I'm going to be running Windows 11 with this PC. Before we move in a bit closer and take a look at everything, I did want to show you a little bit of gameplay here. We've got Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart 1440p, very high settings, but with this at very high, I did have to introduce a little bit of DLSS. We're at quality, still looks great, it's playing just fine, never dipped under 60, but going into this one I actually thought we'd get better performance out of it. And of course, at 1080p, it will up that performance significantly, but I wanted to see what we could do at 1440, and with a little bit of DLSS, this game is fully playable at very high settings. Okay, so here we are. Been up and running for a little while, and as you can see, we've got that Ryzen 9 7940HS, and this is running it up to around 68 watts. From the BIOS, we can adjust it, but unfortunately, it's just not taking in Windows. I've tested many PCs in the past with the 7940HS, and I've been able to take it up to around 80 watts, which will unlock some performance, but it's really not going to be necessary here, given that we have a dedicated GPU. Usually when we do that, we're going to be, working with the built-in Radeon 780M, but with this, we've got that GeForce RTX 4060. Now, it's a laptop variant, but luckily, this is one of the higher-powered laptop variants. Open up Furmark here, and I'll just show you, and from here, yep, we're at 4K. We'll just stress this out. And as you can see, our GPU power here does jump up to around 140 watts. So that's really nice. Sometimes I've seen these run it anywhere from 90 to 115. Getting a little extra out of it and allowing it to boost up to those higher clocks is great for this RTX 4060. The first thing that I wanted to show off were some benchmarks that I ran on this thing. So here we have Geekbench 6. And keep in mind, this is only running at up to around 68 watts on max. Single core 2609, multi 13043. Phenomenal for a mobile chip. Now we need to take a look at some GPU benchmarks with 3D Mark. Night Raid coming in with a 62,802. Of course, it was going to dominate this one. Firestrike 24,330. And finally, Time Spy with a really impressive 10,763. Just judging by these synthetic benchmarks, I think we're going to see some really great gaming performance out of this thing. And I know a lot of people don't really consider the laptop variant of the RTX 4060 a 1440p card, but I personally do. I don't mind playing at 1440p high. If I really need to, I can go to 1080 Ultra. But the first game we have on the list is Mortal Kombat 1. With this, we're at 1440p high. I did try Ultra, but we had some dips under 60. You will need to introduce a little bit of DLSS if you want to go up to Ultra 1440p with this. But personally, I still think it looks great like it is, and I mean, we're getting amazing performance. Constantly locked at 60 FPS. Spider-Man Remastered is one of those games that works great on the RTX 4060. Right now we're at 1440p, very high, so we're maxed out at 1440, no DLSS, and we got an average of 94 FPS. And keep in mind, if you wanted to play Spider-Man Miles Morales, we're using the same engine, you can use the same exact settings, and you'll see that kind of performance we're seeing here with Remastered. Forza Horizon 5 1440p Ultra, no DLSS, no FSR. It's not required with this game, and to tell you the truth, we could probably go up to Extreme here, but I just left it sitting at Ultra 1440. I think it looks awesome. Now I know for a fact that we can do this at 4K medium on the RTX 4060 laptop variant, but with the way I've got everything set up, I figured 1440p would be more than enough. The Last of Us Part 1. Now this is one of those games that you definitely need to kind of take those settings down on the RTX 4060 unless you don't mind using DLSS. We're at 1080p high, and you can see we've got a pretty high frame rate, but going from 1080 to 1440 at these same settings is crazy. I mean, we're under 60 at 1440p high settings with this game. And finally, we've got Cyberpunk 2077, 1440p Ultra, and DLSS is set to balance. Originally, it just goes to automatic, not exactly sure what it really goes to, so I just set it manually to balance. And at 1440, personally, my eye can't tell the difference, and it's running great. We got an average of 82 FPS out of Cyberpunk 2077 on this mini PC. Okay, a few last things I wanted to mention here. First up, CPU temps. Now, GPU temps weren't that bad, and keep in mind, this has a shared cooler, so it's got the cooler over the die for the GPU and the die for the APU. We did hit 88 degrees Celsius on the APU at that 65 watt mark, so it is kind of getting up there, but it's not thermal throttling. That was the highest I saw, and I didn't run Cinebench on this. I'm sure we could probably make this thing thermal throttle if we needed to. But under everyday normal use and even gaming, didn't see any temps over 90 degrees Celsius. And when it comes to total system power consumption, I have this plugged into a kilowatt meter while doing my testing, and at idle, 21 watts. Remember, we're in performance mode also. Average gaming 152 watts, and the maximum 206 watts from the wall. Now that's an extreme use case, most people won't see that. That's an extreme test I like to do just to see total system power consumption or what we can pull from this. And remember, it does come with a 240 watt power supply, so we're under that limit. Overall, I think it's a great performing mini PC. Personally, I like the look of it. I could have done without the RGB on the front. There's really no way to control it, but that's how you get these. And most of the time, when you see these, they will have an Intel CPU and an NVIDIA GPU. Going with AMD, I think, is a smart move here, and especially pairing it up with an RTX 40 series really does unlock the potential of these mini PCs. But that's going to wrap it up for this one. If you're interested in learning a little more, I will leave some links in the description. If you want to see anything else running on this, just let me know in the comments below. And like always, thanks for watching.